Na Naraharyakya Sarakara Prabhu Priyaha. Narahari Sarkar, the Lord's dear associate, was previously Radha's intimate girlfriend named Madhumati. Sorry. Okay, this is a messed up translation. Narahari Sarkar Thakur, the Lord's dear associate, was previously Radha's intimate girlfriend named Madhumati. Gaura Ganadesh Deepika 117. Srila Narahari Sarkar Thakur is counted as one of Chaitanya's branches on the desire tree of pure devotional service. By Mahaprabhu's desire, he took birth in a physician family, Vaidya family, blessing his family when he was 4. Now, in present. Anyway, it's very close to Katwa. Katwa is where Mahaprabhu took sannyas from Keshava Bharati Goswami. So the residents of Srikhanda and the residents of Katwa are close, or perhaps were close. This is a very confusing sentence. On the Katwa Burdwan rail line, the first station west of Katwa is Shripat Srikhanda, and the second, Srikhanda. I think that's what it's saying.
Yeah, it's 2 stations.
Yeah. The punctuation is not proper. But Narahari's home is about 1 mile from the station. Some of the other prominent residents of Srikhanda who were devotees of Lord Chaitanya were Sri Mukunda, Sri Raghunandan, Sri Chiranjeev, Sri Sulochana, Sri Damodar Kaviraj, Sri Ramachandra Kaviraj, Sri Govinda Kaviraj, Sri Balaram Das, Sri Ratikanta, Sri Ram Gopal Das, Sri Pitambara Das, Sri Shachinandana, and Sri Jagadananda. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions many of these names as Chaitanya's branches that generously distributed the fruits of love of God. Among these residents in Srikhanda, the foremost, or the ones which are mentioned most often, are Mukunda, who is known as Kandavasi Mukunda, and his son Raghunandana. These others are also significant. Chiranjiva, he is the father, although he's not much known nowadays, it seems. He's the father of Ramchandra Kaviraj, who's also mentioned here. Ramchandra Kaviraj being the well, I guess you could say the associate of Narottam Das Thakur. He's an associate of Narottam Das Thakur, but he's the foremost of his associates, his closest friend. These other ones, Govinda Kaviraj is a familiar name. These other ones are not much known nowadays, but certainly, very great personalities to be mentioned. This is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, very great personalities. But the foremost of them were Mukunda and his son Raghunandana. And this isn't the Mukunda this isn't Mukunda Datta, who is the closer associate of Mahaprabhu. Of course, he was a close associate of Mahaprabhu, but not the Mukunda from Navadvip. But yes, and then Raghunandan. So anyway, I'll just briefly say, because we're talking about Srikhanda here. There's a famous narration with Raghunandana Thakur, which actually I could pull up a picture. Raghunandana Thakur is especially known for his worship of a small deity of Gopinath at the behest of his father. There was one pastime Mukunda ordered. Mukunda had to do something, go somewhere, something like that. And so here's little Gopinath. So, Mukunda had to do something. He was busy. He asked Raghunandana to offer some boga to, particularly there was like a laddu. He told him to offer some boga to Gopinath, and he specifically ordered him. He said, make sure he eats it, which of course you could understand. Offer it with love and devotion. Make sure that it's acceptable to the Lord. But Raghunandana, he was a very simple child. All children are simple, but anyway, he was very simple, and so he did the whole procedure for the offering, and then he saw that the boga was still there, and so he beseeched Gopinath that, hey, my father has asked me to offer this boga to you, and it's still here. You haven't eaten it. If you don't eat, my father will be very mad at me. And so then Gopinath agreed, and he ate, whatever was there. So anyway, Mukunda came back and saw that there was nothing left, and he said, what happened? And he said, Raghunandan told his father, he said, Gopinath ate it. He ate the boga, that's what he wanted me to do. Make sure he ate it. And then so he didn't believe him. He didn't believe that this, that this had actually happened. And so he told him, okay, do it again. And so he offered him some, and then this time Gopinath left half of it to prove to Mukunda that actually his son was telling the truth. So anyway, this is the deity of Gopinath there. And it's next to a deity of that belonged to Narahari Thakura, which we will hear about here. But anyway, that's a little bit about Sri Khanda. It's also mentioned here that it's a place of Vaidyas. That's where Vaidyas lived. That's actually written in the next section here. The scholar Bharata Malik has written the following Sanskrit verses about Narahari's appearance in a Vaidya family in his book Chandra Prabha. Sri Khanda Nama Nagari Rarhe Bangeshu Vishruta Sarvesham Eva Vaidyanam Ashrayo Yatra Vidyate Yatra Goshti Bhuta Vaidya Yah Kando Bhut Bhishak Priyaha Visheshata Kulinanam Sarvesham Eva Vasabhu. In Bengal, in the area known as Rarha, Burdwan Birbhum, there is a famous town known as Srikhanda that gave shelter to all the physician clans. Since Vaidyas gathered there, it became a favored residence for them, especially those who were of the noblest birth. So this is a common thing, generally speaking, people who are alike live together, but especially in terms of occupation and caste, this was the case and still is the case. Another example, Mahaprabhu's associate, Udarnadatta Thakur, lived in a place called Saptagram, which was a village, well, it's actually 7 villages. A collection of 7 villages, mainly occupied by Varniks, Suvarna Varniks. They were gold merchants. And Srila Prabhupada also mentioned how when he was living in Calcutta, he was living in a colony of Mullaks who were also part of this same, caste or occupation. So yes, people generally, according to their occupation, live together. Seems practical. In the Gaudiya Vaishnava Abhidhan, it is stated that Narahari Sarkar Thakur appeared in either the Shaka year 1401 or 1402, which is 1479 or 1480 AD. His father's name was Sri Narayana Das, his mother Sri Goyi. Goyi was the daughter of Murari Sain. Narayana Das had 3 sons, Mukunda, Madhava, and Narahari. Raghunandan Thakur was Mukunda's son. Sorry, I forgot to mention also that Mukunda is Narahari's brother. So there's the 2 brothers and then Mukunda's son Raghunandan. So that's being mentioned here. Raghunandan Thakur was Mukunda's son. Bhakti Ratnakara 730 to 731. Mukunda is said to have sometimes worked as the Shah of Bengal's family physician. So you can see it was a very noble birth to work as the physician of the Shah or the king of Bengal. So there's another pastime that's mentioned in the Amogha-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think it's like the 15th chapter of Amogha-lila, where Mahaprabhu actually tells a story about Mukunda and his occupation as a Vaidya for the king. Anyway, maybe I'll tell it, maybe I won't. But anyway, we'll read on. The author of Chaitanya Mangala, Lochana Das, who came from the village of Kogram near Jamatpur. Jamatpur is the place where Krishna's Kaviraj is from. Was Narahari's disciple. For this reason, Lochana Das writes that Srila Gadadhar Pandit Goswami and Narahari Sarkar Thakur were Mahaprabhu's dearest associates. On the other hand, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das has not spoken at any length about the devotees of Srikhanda. Srila Lochana Das Thakur has written the following about his guru in Chaitanya Mangala. Narahari Das Thakur, he's also sometimes, generally in Chaitanya Charitamrita, his name is rendered as Narahari Das. So that's why it's Narahari Das Thakur here, as opposed to Sarkar Thakur. Narahari Das Thakur is my worshipable master. He was the descendant of a pure line of physicians. His body was permeated by love for Krishna, and he taught his disciples nothing other than Krishna Prema. There's a similar kind of, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's a description about Murari Gupta in the Madhya-lila, or Madhya Kanda of Chaitanya Bhagavat, the 20th chapter. The whole chapter is the glories of Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta was also a Vaidya. Of course, it's not saying here that Narahari specifically worked as a Vaidya. His brother did. But presumably he also might have. Anyway, I'm not aware of his being a sannyasi or anything like that, or him having taken sannyas at a young age or anything like that. But anyway, there is a description, just because we're talking about Vaidyas, about Murari Gupta, that he was a physician for the body and the soul. So he was both a material and spiritual physician. And it said that anybody who came in contact with him, or anybody who he could cure anybody who came before him, whether their disease was bodily or of the soul. So in the same way, we can also, I think, rightly ascribe the same description to Narahari and to, certainly Mukunda. Born in Vaidya families, born in a Vaidya family, but not ordinary doctors. He was the descendant of a pure line of physicians. His body was permeated by love for Krishna, and he taught his disciples nothing other than Krishna Prema. He was previously known as Madhumati, one of Radha's dearest Sakhis in Vrindavan, a storehouse of sweetness. Madhumati, her service in Vrindavan is supplying honey for the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and their associates. So there's a pastime also in this connection. I think it might be mentioned here. Yes, it is mentioned here. So I will leave that for later. Now in the age of Kali, with the appearance of Gauranga, he has become the keeper of the storehouse of love for Radha and Krishna. After the death of his father Narayana, Narahari's older brother Mukunda arranged for him to study in Navadvip. Narahari quickly became very learned, as well as a connoisseur of the flavors of devotional sentiment. Even before becoming Mahaprabhu's associate, he composed songs glorifying Radha and Govinda's pastimes. When Srila Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was constantly by the Lord's side, engaged in his service, Narahari had the good fortune to enter into his association. Narahari Sarkar Thakur's personal service was to fan the Lord with the yak-tail whisk. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Mahaprabhu's personal representative, confirmed this in his Gora Arti. Narahari Adi Kori, Chamara Dhulai, Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Goshadi Gai. Narahari and the other residents of Srikhanda fanned with the Chamara, Narahari Adi. So Narahari and the other residents of Srikhanda waved the Chamara at Mahaprabhu, toward Mahaprabhu. While Sanjay and Mukunda and Vasughosh sang. This Mukunda is the Navadvip Mukunda. Narahari wrote several books.
He's also finished.
Say again?
That Mukunda is also finished.
Mukunda Datta? He's also a physician, huh? Oh, interesting. Actually,
Do you know?
oh, is he also a physician?
I'm asking.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not aware of his being a physician, no.
Murari Gupta.
Right. Yeah. Narahari wrote several books, including Bhakti Chandrika Patala. I couldn't find anything on any of these books, actually, except for one of them. Most likely, or perhaps I shouldn't say most likely, but at least it is possible that they're not translated into English. Perhaps they're in Bengali. Well, certainly they're in Bengali. One of them is translated into English, and that's the next one, Sri Krishna Bhajanamrita, which is actually a very significant book. It's very short, very small book. Something like Upadeshamrita, it's a little longer though. But it's important because it deals with a very interesting topic, which is the guru and disciple, the relationship between the guru and disciple if the guru falls down, which is not so much dealt with in our, I mean, it's mentioned, okay, that verse, Guru Rapi Apaliptasya, that's Mahabharata, I think. Karya Majanataha, if they don't know what to do, or if they, are, Utpatta Pratipannasya Parityago Vidiyate. If a guru is, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what's right and wrong, if he's engaging in, just like grossly sinful activities, then okay, Parityago Vidiyate, then you're supposed to renounce him. There's other verses like, similar verses like that throughout Shastra, but specifically like a procedure, like what to do first, what to do next, if this doesn't work, then do this. It's mentioned by Jiva Goswami in Shatsandarbha. Otherwise, I'm not sure of another description of this, but anyway, it's an important book. Bhanu Swami has a translation of it. Narahari Sakar. Sri Chaitanya Sahasranam, that I think is extant. I remember hearing about that. Sri Shachinandashtaka, Sri Radhashtaka, etc. So I guess there's more. All of these are well known and thought of highly by the devotees. At least I'm not aware of them, or many of them, and I couldn't find Bhakti Chandra, specifically this Bhakti Chandrika Patala. I couldn't find anything. I Googled, couldn't find anything about it. Even a description of what it's about. These other ones also I couldn't find much about. But anyway, the following story is told about Narahari. Once when Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu came to his house in Srikhanda, they suddenly expressed a desire for honey. Narahari demonstrated his miraculous powers by transforming the water in a pond near his house into honey. Ever since he quenched the Lord's desire for honey with water from this pond, it has been known as Madhu Pushkarni. The Lord gave Narahari the order in a dream to install 3 deities of himself that are currently worshipped in Srikhanda, Katva, and Ganganagar. So these deities are very, very interesting deities, very beautiful deities. It's a very specific form of Mahaprabhu called Rasaraj Mahabhav, where he's in his ecstatic dancing form. So there's 3 of these deities. I think I have another. Yeah, there's another one. Say again?
Yeah, there's another thing, Kata.
Oh, you went there, you saw them, yeah. Yeah, so there's one, this is, these are the same deity because that's Gopinath there also. But these are in Srikhanda. This specific deity is in Srikhanda. But the other forms are the same. I think one of them might be smaller. But anyway, these forms are it's the same form. Mahaprabhu in this dancing form. Very nice deity. Very charming. Yeah, so they're currently worshipped in Srikhanda, Katva, and Ganganagar. So Narahari Sarkar Thakur also participated in the Lord's activities in Puri. He and the other residents of Srikhanda were amongst those who went every year with Shivananda Sen when Mahaprabhu returned to Puri after his pilgrimage to South India, where he had saved so many people by giving them Madhya 1090, another quotation here. After the Snana Yatra, Jagannath would not be available for darshan. Mahaprabhu would go to Alalanath to get relief from not being able to see Jagannath. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked Gopinath Acharya to identify the Lord's devotees, he mentioned the names of Narahari, Mukunda Das, Raghunandan, Chiranjiva, and Sulochana. Yes. Is another quotation from Chaitanya Charitamrita. During the Rath Yatra festival, the Lord formed 7 kirtan groups with the devotees from Bengal. One of these was composed uniquely of the devotees from Srikhanda. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes that Narahari and Raghunandan were the dancers for this group, which sang separately from the others. Another quotation here. When the Lord devotees for service, he told Narahari to remain in the association of devotees, specifically the association of the devotees in Nilachala. Many people confuse Narahari Sarkar Thakur with the author of Bhakti Ratnakara, Narahari Chakravarti. The latter, who is also known as Ganashyam Das, was born 2 centuries later in the district of Murshidabad. His father's name was Jagannath Chakravarti, and he was a disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti. On Govindaji's order, he was engaged as the cook for the Govinda temple and was known as the cooking pujari in Braj. So that's something about Narahari Sarkar. This is Narahari Chakravarti, yeah. Not Narahari Sarkar, yeah. Another interesting thing is I've heard about Narahari Sarkar Thakur. It's not absolutely confirmed, but Narahari Sarkar Thakur wrote songs. He wrote a number of songs. We'll sing one of those songs. There's a song which is quoted in this book. I could not for the life of me figure out what the meter was. So I'm going to sing a different one. I'm also confused as to why this one is included because it's not his most famous song. It's not even on KK songs. It's not on KK songs. It's not. I found one recording of a devotee singing it. Otherwise, I have not. I even searched it like in Bengali. Like I have not. Say again?
So you found a devotee singing, you couldn't figure the meter?
Oh, he's anyway. I'll show you the recording later. It's like I don't know. Anyway, it's like not. It seemed like he was making it up. It seemed like he was just reading it and just like making up a tune as he was singing it. But yes, he wrote many songs, and I have also heard that he is the only devotee of Mahaprabhu who Mahaprabhu allowed to sing Gora bhajans in his personal association. So he would sing about the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu accepted it. I've heard that he's the only devotee that you could say received that benediction from Mahaprabhu. I've heard it said by some devotees who at least I consider relatively reputable. Anyway, it could go either way because Mahaprabhu, in one sense, because Mahaprabhu, he would never allow devotees to glorify him as the Supreme Lord. On the other hand, he also made exceptions. So it could be true, at least. We could say that. So yes, the following is one of the many delectable songs composed by Narahari Sarkar Thakur. The title of the song in English, I very much like this translation of the title. If Gora Came Back to Nadia Town. Anyway, I thought it was a very interesting translation. But I'll read the translation of this song, and then I think we could just sing a different song. Because anyway, this is very difficult. Well, it's in the book. It's a nice song. If Gora came back to Nadia Town, my mind would be filled with joy. I would see him, the source of all joy, performing his kirtan pastimes. Hari, Hari, when will I again gaze upon that moon-like face? When will the day come when the dam holding the ocean of separation in my heart breaks? When will I see the golden form of the Lord wrapped in his Yajna Sutra? Lifting my arms in the air, I will shout, Hari, Hari, and dance in the midst of the devotees. Saying such things, many of Gaura's devotees close their eyes and merge into love for him. When will Narahari's desires be fulfilled? When will he gaze again upon the form of the young Gaura? Anyway, it's very nice, very beautiful song. You can imagine somebody who's, you could imagine, especially somebody who's experienced Mahaprabhu's personal association, the kind of feelings they would get. We have, perhaps you could say we have similar experiences, devotees nowadays have similar experiences about their spiritual masters and about Srila Prabhupada, that when they're in the association of the spiritual master, it's very nice, and then, to say the least, and then later when the spiritual master either isn't present there or perhaps leaves this world, then they feel a very intense longing to be in the association of the spiritual master again. We hear devotees, you hear so many Vyasa Puja offerings, Srila Prabhupada's disciples express similar feelings. So you can imagine an eternal associate of Mahaprabhu, the kind of feelings of separation that they experience thinking about Mahaprabhu performing his pastimes. You hear, like Narottam Das Thakur, when he went on pilgrimage, he visited Navadvip, and he was sitting in the house of Shachi Mata, and I think it was described he was like lying on the floor. Certainly he rolled in the dust of that place where Mahaprabhu, put his lotus feet. But he was experiencing extremely intense emotions of separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ishan also, Shachi Mata's servant, was there, and is described that Ishan was like, he had stayed there actually since, from the time of Mahaprabhu, he stayed there in Shachi Mata's house until he left this world. He stayed there in Shachi Mata's home, and it's described that he was emaciated, he was barely even alive, actually. He wasn't doing much, just kind of, I guess sometimes we say like a shell of his former self. So we can see like that the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, their life is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Mahaprabhu leaves or when Mahaprabhu is not present, then their life itself, it's like their life itself is not present. The same thing is described of the gopis and the Vrajvasis in general, that when Krishna left Vrindavan, they were like something like zombies, just kind of walking around very morose, of course morose, but at the same time they were experiencing the highest ecstasy, the highest pleasure and separation from the Lord. But externally very morose, very sad, anguished, despaired, wondering when they'll be able to see the Lord again and associate with him. So similar feelings are being expressed here by Narahari Thakur in relation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I will pull up the song we can sing. This, my understanding is that this is oh geez, it's getting late. Perhaps we shouldn't sing it then. So maybe we can sing it at the end. See, I was thinking that this wouldn't, anyway. I was afraid of not having enough material to speak about, but here we are. Anyway, maybe we'll sing it at the end if time allows, but at least I'll continue reading here about. Yes, Narahari disappeared in around 1570 AD in the month of, there's no diacritics here, but anyway, I'll just say Agrahayan. On the Krishna Ekadashi day, Srinivasacharya officiated at his funeral ceremony. Nityananda Prabhu's son, Veer Chandra Goswami, and many other important Vaishnavas were in Srikhanda to celebrate Narahari's disappearance feast, which is described in Bhakti Ratnakara. Quote, some people said, brothers, do not leave right away. An ocean of prema will flood over in Srikhanda in a few days. On the 13th day of the waning moon of Agrahayan, when Narahari Thakur disappeared, a great festival will be held here. Bhakti Ratnakara 9, 512 to 514. So anyway, that's a little bit about Narahari Sarkar Thakur, a very dear associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Narahari Sarkar Thakur ki jai. So now we'll read. Okay, so now we'll read about Sri Saranga Thakur. I have a couple more pictures here. Yes. Okay. Raje Nandi Mukhi Yasit Sadhya Saranga Thakuraha Prahlado Manyate Kaishchan Matpitra Sanamanyate. Vraja's Nandamukhi became Saranga Thakur in Amogha-lila. Some people say that he is Prahlad, but that is not the opinion held by my father. Gaura Ganodesh Deepika 172. Sri Saranga Thakur is mentioned in the listing of branches of the Chaitanya trunk of the tree of devotional service, along with Ramdas, Kavidatta, Gopal Das, and Bhagavatacharya, Chaitanya Charitamrita 110-113. He is also known as Sarangadhara and Sarangapani. He used to live in Modadrumadweep, which is the island in Navadvip that represents, of the 9 types of devotional service, the service attitude. So each of the 9 islands of Navadvip represent a particular anga of devotional service. Modadrumadweep represents Dasyam. The name of the town is Mamagachi. Mamagachi also, or Mamagachi, for those who know, is also the birthplace and, the birthplace of Vrindavan Das Thakur, who wrote the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. The name of the town was Mamagachi. He would sit in a secluded place on the banks of the Ganga to meditate and chant the holy names. Through these practices, he attained many miraculous powers. I'll touch on that a little bit later. At first, Saranga Thakur did not want to make any disciples for fear of disturbances to his bhajan, but Mahaprabhu repeatedly encouraged him to do so. This is a very telling kind of pastime. There's a similar pastime there's many similar pastimes, but one that specifically came to mind when I was reading this was after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur moved from Puri, he lived in Puri from 1901 to 1904. He had to leave Puri because of a very, controversial kind of situation with one Radharaman Charan Das Babaji. And then he traveled in South India for some time. And then after South India, he went to Navadvip. And this is when he began to engage in his Shatakoti Nam Yagya. Before that, pretty much as a result of the combination of the controversy with Charan Das Babaji and some management problems that were happening at Yogpith, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his father, that he just wanted to isolate himself and just engage in bhajan and just forget about the whole thing. And which, for one perspective, or for a certain kind of devotee, that's okay. Some devotees do that. Some devotees, that's their mode of devotional service. But it seems like Mahaprabhu's emphasis and the emphasis of our acharyas is that for the majority of devotees, it is, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, he said that this is the renunciation of Mayavadis. That although it's chanting, although it's bhajan, it's a renunciation of Mayavadis because of the motivation. The motivation is what? The motivation is that I'm sick of this material world, I'm sick of dealing with all these problems, therefore I'm just going to chant, I'm just going to do this and that. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur called this a renunciation of Mayavadis. So Saranga Thakur did not want to make any disciples for fear of disturbances to his bhajan. Of course, we wouldn't dare to say that Saranga Thakur's not wanting to make any disciples for fear of disturbances to his bhajan is like Mayavadi, is like the renunciation of Mayavadis. But anyway, at least that example is given. But Mahaprabhu repeatedly encouraged him to do so because at least we would say the better thing or the higher thing is that even though there are these problems, even though there are these disturbances, one not only engages in their bhajan, still the bhajan is there, like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said that we should be bhajanandandis who preach. So bhajan should be there, but Mahaprabhu's followers, Mahaprabhu's close followers, they, despite disturbances or despite seeming disturbances or possible disturbances to their bhajan, still they engage in activities for the purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness. So Mahaprabhu in this way was encouraging Saranga Thakur that you should take disciples. The following account is given in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Abhidhana. When the Lord was criticizing Devananda Pandit for having offended Srivas Pandit, Saranga Thakur met him on the streets of Navadvip. Mahaprabhu ordered him to give up his determination to never take disciples. So in this way, Mahaprabhu was encouraging Saranga Thakur in the same way that Bhaktivinoda Thakur encouraged Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, having been ordered by Mahaprabhu to take disciples, Saranga Thakur decided that he would make a disciple of the first person that he met the following morning. As fate would have it, the next morning a dead body washed up against him while he was taking bath in the Ganges. He revived the corpse and made him his disciple. The disciple was known as Thakur Murari or sometimes as Saranga Murari. I have also heard Saranga Thakur called Saranga Murari. Perhaps that's just wrong. Perhaps the devotees say that are just incorrect. But at least his name, this disciple of Saranga Thakur, previously his name was Murari. He was a young boy. He was bitten by a snake. Actually, it's mentioned here, In the Gaudiya Vaishnava Abhidhan, it is further said that Murari was a boy who had been killed by a snake bite, and his parents had set his uncremated body afloat on a raft in the Ganges, as was the custom in that time. Saranga Thakur himself became an empowered preacher of Mahaprabhu's Dharma. Descendants of this, now it's referring to Saranga Murari as Saranga Thakur. So, a little bit confusing here. Saranga Thakur himself became an empowered preacher of Mahaprabhu's Dharma. Descendants of his disciples still live in a village named Shava, or corpse. One very interesting thing here, which is brought up sometimes, is that by dint of devotional service, by dint of prema bhakti, one actually does develop or can develop mystic cities. We hear in the 4th canto, the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, that Dhruva Maharaj, on account of his chanting this mantra given to him by Narada Muni, it's described that he saw the denizens of heaven flying in the sky in their airplanes, which is only possible for yogis. Normal people can't do that. You have to have mystic cities to be able to do that. And so in a similar way here, through the practices that Saranga Thakur was engaging in, namely sitting in a secluded place on the bank of the Ganga, meditating and chanting the holy names, he attained many miraculous powers. But in general, devotees aren't really interested, or not even really interested, but they're not interested at all, actually, in these mystic cities. It's just, these things go on, devotees accept it. So many things you could say. Perhaps you could say that Haridas Thakur is being beaten and not feeling any pain. Perhaps you could say that's some kind of mystic city. Of course, we also understand later Mahaprabhu revealed that he was taking the beating. But anyway, there's so many narrations like this of devotees developing mystic powers. It's even described of Srila Prabhupada sometimes, how Srila Prabhupada seemed to be able to read devotees' minds, sometimes, not all the time. That he would say things that would indicate that he could hear what certain devotees were thinking, and many other things also. There's many other narrations like this, but the real thing is this: Saranga Thakur where is it here? Saranga Thakur himself became an empowered preacher of Mahaprabhu's Dharma. When Srila Prabhupada was asked famously by one reporter, what are your powers? Or what are your, I forgot exactly the wording of it, but anyway, he said, he was asking about miracles. He said, what miracles can you perform, or have you performed? And Srila Prabhupada pointed to all of his disciples and he said, this is my miracle, that I've made devotees out of these pretty low-class people. So, Srila Prabhupada oftentimes, in talking about mystic cities, would emphasize that, certain mystic cities, they're very, miraculous, it's very amazing. Okay, somebody can do this or do that. Somebody can, even bring a corpse back to life. But if you bring a corpse back to life, and then that's it, then what's the value of such a miracle? Okay, yes, it's miraculous. It's something out of the ordinary. It's something, very, something beyond the laws of material nature as we see. But what's the value of it? Just like Srila Prabhupada would talk about, so he would talk about Sai Baba. What's the value of his miracles? It's the value of however much ash he puts in your hand. So, like this, we're not so much into mystic cities. They're there. It's something that happens, or it's something that can happen for devotees on the platform of Prema Bhakti. But it's not so important to us. The real thing is, again, becoming an empowered preacher of Mahaprabhu's Dharma. Because by mystic cities, what's the you could say the Swarup Lakshana, or what's the intrinsic, what's going on with mystic cities? What's going on with mystic cities is that you're transgressing the laws of material nature. You're making some exception to the laws of material nature. But by that logic, isn't it much more miraculous to completely free somebody, free their entire existence from the laws of material nature? That's a much larger transgression of the laws of material nature, to completely liberate somebody from from the bondage of those laws. Externally, it might not appear so glorious because we're looking for some kind of, or at least materialistic people are looking for some kind of miraculous display of some kind of extraordinary thing. But at least philosophically speaking, we can understand that actually anybody who's practicing devotional service, who in the material world, who has come to practice devotional service, it is actually a very miraculous thing, because that also is wholly, completely against the laws of material nature. So I'll read on here. Saranga Thakur's deities were served in the town of Mamagachi. The original temple was built in front of a bakula tree. So this is the bakula tree here. There's a pastime of this bakula tree. Also, Mahaprabhu entered into it. It was dying, and then he came to Saranga Thakur and he said, "What's the hope for this tree? Or what's going to happen to this tree?" And then Saranga Thakur told him, "Mahaprabhu, other than you, this tree has no hope." And so he entered into the tree, and the tree, it was rejuvenated, and this is understood to be the same tree. Actually, it's still alive to this day, and it's, of course, quite large now. And then this is the home and temple of Saranga Thakur. So the deities of Radha Gopinath can be seen in this temple. These are the deities. So Vasudev Datta's deities are also here. These are the deities of Saranga Thakur, these small ones. These are the deities of Vasudev Datta. These are Gaur Gadadhar deities of one sannyasi later. Yeah. The deities of Radha Gopinath can be seen in this temple, as can the deity of Mahaprabhu's other Parshad, Vasudev Datta Thakur, Srimadana Gopal. The devotees who do parikrama of Navadvip Dham visit this temple for darshan. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur established a temple not far from the above-mentioned home of Saranga Murari at the birthplace of Vrindavan Das Thakur. Saranga Thakur disappeared on the 13th day of the waning moon in the month of Agrahayan. An alternative opinion is that he disappeared on the Ashar Krishna Chaturdashi. So, Sri Saranga Thakur ki jai. Now, Kali Krishnas, very short. I guess it's a day off today, so do we have a little more time? Okay. Oops. Keep that there. Actually, I have some pictures, more pictures here. Yes. Okay. Kala Shri Krishnadasa sa yo lavanga sakha vraje. In Vraja, Kala Krishnadas was Krishna's cowherd friend named Lavanga. Gaura Ganadesh Deepika 132. Kali Krishnadas was known throughout the three worlds. One can attain Gaura Chandra through remembrance of him. Chaitanya Bhagavat 3, 5, 7, 40. This is a picture of Kali Krishnadas's Shripat in Katwa, or near Katwa, in a place called Akaihat. One thing that I thought was significant here, this verse, Kali Krishnadas was known throughout the three worlds. One can attain Gaura Chandra through remembrance of him. So I thought this was nice because one major aspect of Gaura-lila, for those who read Gaura-lila, is the, of course we should all read Gaura-lila, but for those who have read Gaura-lila, it's very apparent that a major aspect of Mahaprabhu's Lila was this emphasis on coming to Krishna, coming to Mahaprabhu through his devotees. There's so many, there's I think there's 4 chapters, 4 or 5 whole chapters in the Adi Lila dedicated just to describing the different branches of Mahaprabhu, the desire tree of devotional service, all of Mahaprabhu's associates, Nityananda Prabhu's associates, Advaita Acharya, and the branches coming from him. There's a major emphasis on the association of devotees, the importance of the Vaishnavas in our spiritual life. And there's many similar verses to this one. One can attain Gaura Chandra through remembrance of him, through remembrance of Kali Krishnas. There's so many similar verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Chaitanya Bhagavat. One thing that I was thinking of was, a specific example, or you could say a very clear example of this is the pastimes of Nakula Brahmachari. Nakula Brahmachari was an associate of Mahaprabhu who it's described that, or of whom it's described that Mahaprabhu entered into his body, or at least Mahaprabhu's Shakti entered into his body. And there's a narration of how Mahaprabhu appears before people, but this specific example is given that he appears through his devotees. And so this Nakula Brahmachari, he was an Avesh manifestation, a Shakti Avesh, we could say, manifestation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was his devotee, but Mahaprabhu, on account of Nakula Brahmachari's devotion, on account of his ability to preach and like this, Mahaprabhu entered into his body, and therefore whoever Nakula Brahmachari met would basically be coming face to face with Mahaprabhu. And so there's, some pastimes in this regard. Also, I was thinking of Swarup Damodar Goswami's role in Gaura-lila, specifically in Nilachala, when Mahaprabhu would, because many people came to Mahaprabhu with offerings of, poetry, and there's, of course, that one famous devotee came with an offering of a play. But everybody would have to go through, and anybody who wanted to see Mahaprabhu would have to go through Swarup Damodar. Swarup Damodar was pretty much the closest associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, most intimate associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's different lists of intimate associates of Mahaprabhu. There's lists given on like proximity, and then there's also other lists given in terms of their, what would you say? Their ability to understand, like this verse, their ability to understand Mahaprabhu's Manobhishta, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam. Those, it's described that there's 2, specifically Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami. They could understand Mahaprabhu's Manobhishta when nobody else could. Swarup Damodar didn't talk much about it, but Rupa Goswami, at Mahaprabhu's behest, wrote much about it. But anyway, so Swarup Damodar basically from all angles was Mahaprabhu's most intimate associate there in Nilachala. And so whenever somebody would come with an offering for Mahaprabhu, they would have to go through him. So anyway, there's a number of pastimes in that regard, especially there's that one known, I'm forgetting his name now, I think he was like a friend or maybe a brother of Bhagavan Acharya, or maybe it was Bhagavan Acharya himself. Bhagavan Acharya is in there somewhere, but I'm forgetting exactly what his relation was to him. But anyway, he came with
What is this got to do with Kali Krishna?
well, anyway, sorry, I was just talking about how, because this verse was, sorry, because there's this verse here, Kali Krishnadas was known throughout the three worlds, one can attain Gaurachandra through remembrance of him. So I was just talking about Mahaprabhu being accessed through his devotees. But anyway, that's sufficient to make the point that Mahaprabhu is accessed through his devotees. It's a very, big part, emphasized part of Gaura-lila. Lavanga Sakha was one of the 12 Gopals. His Sripat is in the town of Akaihat, that's this here, within the jurisdiction of Katwa, just off the road that leads to Navadvip. It is about 2 miles south of the Katwa train station and 1 mile north of the Dainhat station. Near the Sripat is a pond called Nupurakund. It is said that the ankle bell of Raghunandan Thakur, the son of Kandavasi Mukunda, fell here. That is... Oh, I don't have it, huh? Okay, anyway, sorry, thought I had it. Others say that it was Nityananda Prabhu's ankle bell. In his Anubhashya commentary to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur has written, in the opinion of the Goswamis of the Shonatala village on the north bank of the Ichamati river, about 3 miles of Berabandar in the Pabna district, Kala Krishnadas was a Brahmin of the Virendra group of the Bharadwaj Gotra in Badaragram. Kala Krishnadas went to Pabna to preach the chanting of the holy names. There are still the ruins of the buildings where he built his ashram. Later, members of his family came to live there. Since there were no other Brahmanas of the Virendra group in Akaihat, he came there to marry. Afterwards, he returned to Akaihat and finished his days in Vrindavan. He had 2 sons named Sri Mohanadas and Sri Gaurangadas or Vrindavandas. Their descendants still live in the Shonatala village. There they celebrate Kala Krishnadas's disappearance on the 12th day of the waning moon in the month of Agrahayan. The deity who worshipped was named Kalachand. There's Kalachand and Srimati Radharani. Quotation from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kala Krishnadas was the best of the Vaishnavas. He knew nothing other than Nityananda Prabhu's lotus feet. When Janava Devi came to Katwa, Kala Krishnadas was in her entourage. Quotation from Bhakti Ratnakara. They all arrived in Kantaka Nagara, Katwa, with the company of many devotees, including Kala Krishnadas from Akaihat. This is a quote from Anubhashya. The Kala Krishnadas who accompanied Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to southern India was not the same personality as this Kaliya Krishnadas. So that's something about Kaliya Krishnadas, Saranga Thakur, and Narahari Sarkar Thakur. So, Sri Kaliya Krishnadas ki jai, Sri Saranga Thakur ki jai, Sri Narahari Sarkar Thakur ki jai. If there's any additions. Yes.
Just a small correction. Prabhupada didn't say this Bhajananandis preach kind of thing. That's said by a popular disciple of his. But it's not Prabhupada who said that.
Oh, okay.
Anybody has anything?
Prabhu, just a question. You said that, well, this was stated in that book about Sri Narahari Thakur, that he only taught his disciples nothing other than Krishna Prema. And I was hearing yesterday that it's either Prema or Kama. And I was thinking, for a person who isn't acting on the platform of Prema, but isn't grossly acting on lusty desires either. Do you think there's some in between, or is that a true statement? Like it's only, loving God or serving one's senses,
Well, Srila Prabhupada gave in different places, different definitions. Excuse me. Of pure devotional service. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would emphasize, okay, that actual purity, that actual freedom from material desires, which we see, Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadinavritam, that's there. And perhaps you could say that's the highest standard of purity. But Srila Prabhupada also in some places considered purity of motive to be indicative of somebody's practicing pure devotional service. That if somebody was not practicing pure devotional service, or was not practicing devotional service for the sake of sense gratification, or if they were, like we say sometimes, like in the shower, then still they could be considered pure devotees as long as their motivation was pure, as long as they weren't practicing Krishna. Okay, maybe they have some material desires, but if they're not acting on those material desires and they're practicing Krishna consciousness for the sake of becoming free from those, then Srila Prabhupada sometimes considered that, or in some places has said that that is also pure devotional service. Jiva Goswami that brings up this term, it's in relation to Raganuga Bhakti, that it's Ajata Ruchi Ramanuga Bhakti. So it's Raganuga Bhakti, it's Raganuga in the sense that it's following in the sentiments of the pure devotees in Vrindavan. It's completely selfless, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, but it's Ajata Ruchi. The real taste hasn't been awakened yet. So we also call this Vaidhi Bhakti sometimes, but I've heard some devotees bring up that it's a more accurate term. It's Ajata Ruchi Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, which you could say is a kind of pure devotional service. So yeah, it doesn't seem like we would say that it's either one of the two. Now, well, in one sense it is. In one sense it is one of the two. It is one or the other, because either you are practicing pure devotional service, and pure devotional service doesn't necessarily mean you have to be free from material desires, or you're acting on your material desires, which is kama. So I guess the thing is, pure devotional service is a more broad category than often we say it is. Anything more? Mataji's anything? Okay. Srila Narahari Sarkar Thakur ki jai. Sri Saranga Thakur ki jai.